Salman.
And I'm T. Michael Body, and welcome back to another episode of Making a Difference, AV Pride's TV series on underage drinking. On today's show, we're going to discuss the issue of social hosting. What is it? Who does it? And what are some of the social and legal problems that it can cause?
To answer these and other questions, we have video presentations from two of Fayette County's top legal professionals, and they're going to share with us the views and laws associated with social hosting. First, we'll hear from Fayette County's District Attorney, Scott Ballard.
And then Fayette County Detective Scott Israel will shed more light on the problems of social hosting. Let's start with Fayette County District Attorney Scott Ballard.
Hi, I'm Scott Ballard. Since 2005, I've been the District Attorney for the Griffin Judicial Circuit, which includes Fayette County, but also Spalding, Pike, and Upson counties. I'm a lifelong resident of Fayette County and practiced law with my dad in Fayetteville for the 19 years before I became DA. I think it's important that we start by talking about what the law says about underage drinking. The legislature has decided, for lots of good reasons that were well studied in advance, that it should be illegal for people under the age of 21 to possess alcoholic beverages, and it's also illegal for other people to furnish alcohol to people who are under the age of 21. Now, note that I said possession. It's not ownership that's at question. Sometimes we'll have people come in and say, well, it wasn't my beer. Well, that's really not at issue. It's the possession of the beer. Possession can be in two types. It can be actual possession, which means I've got it in my hand or it's in my pocket or in my purse, or it can be constructive possession, which means I know that it's there and I have the ability to control it. So if it's out there in the middle of the table, I might be in possession of it even though I'm not holding it. Similarly, you can be in possession of alcohol because it's in your stomach, inside your body. That can be a form of possession. And then finally, I think people need to know that there's such a thing as joint possession. One beer can be in the middle of the table with three people around possessing it jointly, and they're all guilty of the violation. So what is social hosting? Social hosting is where you throw a party and you invite people to your house and you serve alcohol. Now that's to be distinguished from people who go to a bar to get their alcohol. There are a lot of good parents who host parties. They socially host for minors, and you wonder, well, why do they do this? The reasons that I've heard them express usually go something like this. I know my children are going to drink. I just want them to be safe when they do drink, and I know that they'll be safe if they're drinking at my home. And I think that's why people socially host. Well, you invite people over to your house for a party, and that sounds like a private event. So how does the law get involved? Frequently, it's because neighbors heard loud noises and they call the police to check into it. But all too often, I'm afraid, something else illegal happens or somebody gets hurt and the authorities are called. And then, of course, they discover that underage people have alcohol. So if the police come out to a home and they find that social hosting has occurred, what they really are finding is that the law's been violated. So the parents can be charged for furnishing alcoholic beverages to any of the children who are under 21 who are not their own children. They can be arrested. They can face, for the first offense, 6 months in jail. They can be fined. For second offenses, the punishments go up, and I believe they go up to even 12 months in jail. And don't forget, the children under 21 years of age who are present and possessing alcoholic beverages, they've also violated the law. They're guilty of minor in possession of alcohol, or commonly referred to as MIP, and they can face 6 months in jail for the first offense, 12 months in jail for the second offense, a fine of $300 for the first offense, and in some municipalities they have ordinances that make the fine even greater than that. They also lose their driver's licenses, and they can be required to attend the same class that DUI offenders attend. Now, so far we've been talking about the legal consequences of minor in possession of alcohol and furnishing alcohol to minors. Let's don't forget the other very important consequences for underage people possessing alcohol. First of all, there's the strain in the relationship between the young people and their parents. I don't think that should be forgotten. Secondly, though, people become addicted to alcohol because they start drinking too young, and they have lifelong problems because of that. Thirdly, we frequently find at these types of parties where social hosting is going on that there are drugs also present. It's not too big a leap to go from possessing alcohol illegally to bringing in a drug that's illegal to possess. Fourth, we have sexual assault and rape even that's often reported at these types of parties, and other types of misconduct like gunshots being fired. We have reports of people firing guns at these parties. And unfortunately, I can think of at least one instance where we had a person who drank while underage at one of these socially hosted parties, drove away and killed somebody in the process. The consequences are not just in the courtroom. So is minor in possession of alcohol an important issue to be addressed in our community? I think so. Frequently we look at criminal histories. We're about to prosecute somebody for armed robbery, but you know what we see? We see that throughout that person's life they have progressively followed a chain of illegal activity, and it began way too often with them being minors in possession of alcohol. If we can stop the problem, the illegal activity at its root, we can save society all of the expense and issues from those additional crimes this person may commit during their lifetime.
Did you know the #1 place where minors drink in Fayette County is in the homes of friends? Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Mom, why are you drinking so much? I'm the grown-up. I can do what I want.
No, I hate you!
Every year, over 900,000 children are abused by alcoholic parents. More than 10 million people ages 12 to 20 confessed to underage drinking in 2012. Annually, more than 1.3 million women are sexually taken advantage of while intoxicated. Drinking has consequences that affect more than just you. Next time, think about it.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
Well, T. Michael, Mr. Ballard gave us lots of interesting facts.
He did, and interesting opinions.
Yeah. Do you agree with all of them?
I do, for the most part. I really liked what he said about how he imagines that most kids do support social hosting, but the problem with that would be, like he said, there can be strained relationships between the kids and the parents, and it could, especially those that disapprove of their children's drinkings. And so I think it could cause some major problems when you actually furnish alcohol in your home, whether you think it's safe or not, like as opposed to the commercial selling of it. I think that's, and that, of course, that's the position that a lot of parents will take, is that, well, it's safer if they're doing it in the home, but it's still not.
It's not that safe.
What matters is the law.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't see why teenagers won't agree to it. It's like heaven for them, just drinking. And do you agree with the years they're gonna get arrested for the parents?
Well, the thing is, if the police found out that there was social hosting, the parents wouldn't get arrested if the minors that are drinking live in the house.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it seem a little bit kind of laid back and everything.
And I think the years they should be in prison should be longer for the parents, because they wouldn't, 6 months for first offense, that's like too short for them. They wouldn't understand. They can't learn. I mean, for some parents they would. Most parents wouldn't.
How long would you think that?
I haven't, before I talked to him, I thought it was like 1 year for first offense, and then 1 year, 1.5 years for second offense or something.
Well, like Attorney Ballard said, the offense is a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
And so the maximum would be 6 months for any misdemeanor, for the first offense at least. And so if they do it again, 12 months, I think it's reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I see your point now. The consequences for the parents and the children, those are unbelievable. And I can't believe kids actually do sexual abuse when they're drinking like that, social hosting. Even if it's happening in the house, aren't the parents supposed to be looking after them? And you see it happens like rape. He was reported rape at social hosting.
Sexual abuse really is, in my opinion, it's one of the biggest problems with alcohol, especially for underage alcohol. So
it was really interesting to know that even at social hosting, sexual abuse can happen. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I did not know, of course, and I've honestly, that's what makes social hosting one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, because there is pretty much nothing worse than a crime such as rape and everything. And so I think it's really important to address this issue. And we'll be right back after this.
Did you know in the state of Georgia, parents can only provide alcohol to underage children when they are their own children, they are at home, and they are present when the child is drinking? Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Glass and steel flew everywhere. My whole body seemed to be turning inside out. I heard myself scream!
17% of binge drinkers are teenagers. Drinking kills dreams.
Suddenly, I was awakened. It was very quiet. A police officer was standing over me. My body was mangled. I was saturated in blood. Pieces of glass were sticking out all over.
Nearly 72% of students have consumed alcohol by the end of high school, and 37% by 8th grade. Drinking kills dreams.
Strange that I couldn't feel anything. Hey, don't pull that sheet over my head. I can't be dead. I'm only 17.
Young people who drink are more likely to be involved in self-destructive behaviors. Drinking kills dreams.
I'm waiting for you.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
Welcome back. I'm Sutika Samant, along with my co-host, Tima Kabadi, and you're watching Making a Difference.
Our topic today is social hosting, and we just saw a very interesting and very informative video presentation from Fayette County District Attorney Scott Ballard.
And we have another very informative video presentation from Fayette County's Detective Scott Israel. But first, let's take a look at a video on social hosting that was posted on YouTube.
Why don't you have a seat, Mr. Johnson? I understand you have a potential legal problem today.
Yes, I had an issue come up a few nights ago, and I started to worry. So I figured that I should come and speak to a lawyer to just see what my options are.
Well, that's always a good idea. Tell me a little bit about it.
I used to have my own restaurant years ago, and one of the things that I was famous for was my desserts. The restaurant went down about 10 years ago. However, while I had it, I established a party at my house called the Chocolate Extravaganza.
Well, that sounds like my kind of party.
Yes, a lot of people say that. It started off with me just having a few friends round and serving some of the most popular desserts from the restaurant. But over the years, it got bigger and bigger. Now I have other people come over and they serve their desserts, and it's grown to over 100 people every year. It's a lot of fun, and since we don't serve any alcoholic beverages, I figured there'd be no problem.
So you're worried about social host liability?
Yes, but I didn't know what it was called. I've heard from a couple of people that if you're having a party at your house and you serve someone who's obviously intoxicated and then they go out and do something bad, you could be held liable too.
That is a pretty good summary of what social host liability is all about.
Well, I think I might have a new wrinkle on the issue. I have a friend of mine, Ted, who's a diabetic. He likes to come to my parties even though he doesn't eat any of the desserts. Actually, I make him a special diabetic desserts. It's proven to be really popular with people who are trying to lose weight as well.
Well, so far I don't see what the problem is.
Over the past few years, I've tried to come up with bigger and better desserts. This year, I think I really outdid myself. I made a 17-layer chocolate cake with a chocolate fondue fountain right on top of it. People went wild about it. Unfortunately, it was so good that even Ted decided to have a slice of it himself. This thing was about 3 feet tall and it weighed about 50 pounds. I figured that Ted would just have one slice and leave it at that. However, I heard from other people that he ended up having 5 slices altogether.
So he went into a diabetic coma?
Well, I wish it was as simple as that. After his 5th and final slice, he waved goodbye and he got into his car and drove off. While he was on the interstate, he slipped into a diabetic coma and he caused a multi-car accident. A couple of people were seriously injured, and I've had several people coming up to me telling me that I might be liable as well. That's what brought me here today. What do you think?
Well, I've heard of social host liability being used in many contexts before, but I can't remember one that involved desserts. Let's review the basics first, and we'll discuss the dessert issue later. The idea behind social host liability is that the host can't claim that he wasn't responsible when he served alcohol to a clearly intoxicated guest. Before the social host liability concept was created, a host could provide his guests with as much liquor as he wanted and not be worried about any consequences that may have happened to that guest when they left the party. Eventually, all states adopted a social host liability scheme, and part of the responsibility was then put on the host. We all know that people, when they're intoxicated, don't exercise the best judgment. So when the host clearly ignores common sense and continues to serve someone that's obviously intoxicated, part of the responsibility for what the drunk person does shifted to the person hosting the party. The idea was to discourage drunken driving by making the host also liable for the action carried out by the drunk person. That's the simple overview of social host liability doctrine. However, that doctrine was never meant to completely eliminate the guest's responsibility for their actions. In this case, we have a person who knows that he is a diabetic and overindulgence in sweets. True, you made the desserts available, but I don't see how any court would find you liable for a person who is diabetic eating 5 slices of chocolate cake and then attempting to drive home.
So you think I'm off the hook?
I wouldn't go that far. The law is really set in stone, but if someone does decide to sue you, it could be a bit of a fight before the court decides to find you not liable under the social host media doctrine.
Okay. I do feel a little bit better now. Say we didn't discuss what your fee would be for giving me this advice today.
Well, why don't you just make me one of those desserts?
Interesting video.
I know. The kids, they were drinking and they were wasted on the floor. Did you see how the mother agreed to the police that she was hosting a party?
Well, yes, but you have to remember she had no idea that there was a social host ordinance, which is most likely a problem throughout the whole town.
Right. I forgot that part. And she was arrested, right?
She was placed under arrest, but she wasn't taken downtown.
That's good. She had to make the kids call all the parents and get them. That's good.
It was interesting to me how nobody knew that what they were doing was against the law, because it was, I guess it was in the home, and they had all gotten permission from her parents. The one mom said that she got permission from everyone else's parents, and so that meant that no parent involved knew that there was a social host ordinance.
Right.
And I'm sure that in many towns that's a problem. These parents don't know.
So do you think it's a safe decision for mothers or parents to let the teenagers drink under their supervision?
Well, in essence, no, but I can understand where these parents' positions are coming from, how if they get permission from everyone else's parents to take away the keys, it does feel as though they're doing the right thing, and it feels like it's a moral thing, but what matters is that it's still against the law, and alcohol, under any circumstances, is going to be very dangerous to minors. I mean, you saw the kids in that video. Yeah. You saw how they were just completely out of their minds. And so that's what can happen, and that's what the parents may not think about. It's not something that it's not deviance or anything like that. They're not trying to hurt their kids. They're trying to do what they feel is right. But the point is, it's not, and it's against the law, and it can cause a lot of problems, as we've learned up to this point.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, also appearing on the show via video is Detective Scott Israel. Detective Israel is with Criminal Investigation Division of Fayetteville's Police Department. His specialty is investigating gang and juveniles. Let's see what he has to say about the problems of social hosting.
Did you know it is illegal for parents to supply alcohol in their home to underage drinkers other than their own children? Parents who furnish or allow underage drinking to occur are subject to civil and criminal penalties. Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Mr. Alcohol, how do you feel about yesterday's convention?
Oh, it was great. Really successful.
Mr. Alcohol. Do you know there's a 14-year-old boy with permanent brain damage? You make it seem like everything would be better, but in the end you make it worse. So why should the youth continue voting for you?
What? That's crazy. I changed lives.
Did you know that there is now a teenager handicapped due to drunk driving?
Look, if there is a problem, it's the young people. I don't vote for myself, you know. Am I right or what?
Yeah, you are.
Vote no for alcohol. We, the students of Lovejoy High School, disapprove of Mr. Alcohol's message.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
Yes, a story that comes to mind about social hosting was an incident that happened a couple of years ago when a mother decided to have a party at her house and allow all the juvenile kids to come to her house. These were teenagers. And as they came to the house, she would supply alcohol. Some of the kids would bring their own alcohol. She was also collecting their car keys and putting them into a bowl. And as they were putting them into the bowl, they would go downstairs and they would do what they were doing to have fun at the party by drinking excessive amounts of alcohol. And one of the kids, after he was highly intoxicated, decided that he wanted to go ahead and leave the party for that night. So he had a spare key. So therefore he goes out, he gets in his car, and he leaves the party. 4 miles away from his house, he wrecks the car, flips the car, and kills himself. Parents, I want you to understand, you need to be a parent and not a friend.
I love how Mr. Israel said, are you going to have the same opinion about your kids having sex or snorting cocaine or shooting heroin? I totally agree on that. If you can't control or just little alcohol, how are you going to make decisions in life like control when you're going to have sex or whatever? If you're a parent and you let your children say, okay, you can drink under my permission, they're going to think the same thing for everything else, right?
Yes, that was for the opinion of how they would rather watch their kids get drunk than have them do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very good point that he made. I also liked how he laid out the consequences of social hosting, because that's something that, of course, these parents and family members won't necessarily think about or even know about, how it will, in essence, put teenagers in risky or dangerous situations that could include rape, sexual assault, battery, DUI, vehicular suicide. And I also liked how he said that it won't be limited to those consequences. It'll include them, but not to be limited to them. There are numerous consequences besides those, and it's really dangerous. And so, and these consequences won't even teach these kids how to wait for things in their life, is what he said. And that's a major problem. We have to actually teach kids our age how to wait for things in their life so that these things don't happen.
And I also loved how he said, be a parent, not a friend. Because parents these days are just being a friend, not a parent. And that's just, they need to be doing a better parenting. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Did you know social host liability refers to the civil liability of a person who hosts a social engagement or a private event where the host serves alcohol? Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Mom, why are you drinking so much?
I'm the grown-up. I can do what I want.
No, I hate you!
Every year, over 900,000 children are abused by alcoholic parents. More than 10 million people ages 12 to 20 confessed to underage drinking in 2012. Annually, more than 1.3 million women are sexually taken advantage of while intoxicated. Drinking has consequences that affect more than just you. Next time, think about it.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
We've talked about the ordinance, the law, and the consequences, and it's time that we learn what we can do to avoid such consequences. It's time to learn what we can do to avoid the rape, the sexual assault, the DUI, the vehicular suicide, and all of it. Are you going to be the parent who watches their kid get drunk in front of them? Or are you going to be the parent who learns what they can do to teach our kids how not to compromise temptation, to teach our kids that responsibility is a part of life?
Well, T. Michael, I've learned a lot about the problems social hosting can cause.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad idea any way you look at it. To learn what you can do to help put an end to social hosting, visit our website, www.avpride.org. Thanks for watching, and tell your friends about the show.
See ya.
Bye.